Modern marketing changes fast, and great marketers need an edge. Marketers from challenger brands need to be especially brave. This season, all our guests are from challenger brands. Join us as they unveil the strategies and tactics behind the risks that they've taken. They'll talk about the biggest, boldest marketing campaigns that got their brand noticed and made an impact in the industry. Hosted by Brave Software and me, Donnie DeVoren, head of sales at Brave. Join me to get fresh, new perspectives and the inspiration to say yes to brave marketing moments. You're listening to a new episode of the Brave Marketer podcast, and this one features Chris Kneeland. Now, Chris is the CEO of Cult and one of the veteran marketers out there. He's a senior advisor to CMOs at Zappos, Harley-Davidson, Best Buy, GoDaddy, and other brands. And before founding Cult, Chris was the marketing leader at John Deere and the Home Depot. And what I think you're going to find interesting about Cult is they're not a typical ad agency. They're more of a consultant with 30-person company and really focus on engagement for brands and less about advertising. We think that you're really going to like this episode because he talks about how his clients are challenging industries and picking fights with the status quo versus competing brands themselves. He talks about why demographic segregation can actually hurt more than it can help when buying media, and what are the actual insights that cause customers to buy, and how Cult thinks about elevating this customer experience. I also put in a couple of things about crypto in here, which I think you'll enjoy, and also talked about the Brave browser itself and how we position ourselves. But before we hop into today's episode, we want to highlight our Brave Pick of the Week. Every episode, we choose a brand that has run an ad campaign with Brave. And this week, we're picking Avalanche. Avalanche is the fastest smart contracts platform in the blockchain industry. And their campaign objective was to get the word out about their largest DeFi incentive program in history. And they ran a sponsored image and push notifications with us and a winning combo for best results. And we're excited to have them on board. And now for today's episode of The Brave Marketer. Hey, Chris, welcome to the Brave Marketer podcast. How you doing today?
I am excellent, Donnie, and even better knowing that we get a chance to talk here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you on the show today. Why don't we kick things off by asking a question I asked a lot of my guests, which is, what's the most exciting thing that you're working on right now?
We are insurgents or pirates, if you will, trying to challenge the status quo. So excitement is not one of our problems. We wake up every day telling emperors that they're not wearing any clothes or shouting no in boardrooms that just want us to say yes. And so we're somewhat provocative, we're somewhat contrarian, and we're on a mission to sort of help people not just behave differently, but believe differently about what their brand is possible to accomplish and what their marketing is likely doing wrong.
Got it. Can you share some examples of that?
Yeah, of course. As an example, we work with the UCLA system or network. It's over 200 clinics and hospitals all throughout Southern California. Most hospitals would not be viewed as beloved brands. Most hospital marketing departments would not be viewed as the most sophisticated marketers. You don't frequently see them in the traditional ad agency award scene. And yet hospitals, particularly in America, play an incredibly important role for the health and well-being, not just in terms of helping, remedy cancer, but all the preventative things that can make our lives better and improve our longevity. They had a very bold, courageous, brave leader who didn't understand. Why do people love Apple Computer? Why do people love Tesla cars, but nobody loves their hospital, given what its impact on their families and on their communities. And so we've been on a journey with them for the past couple of years to change that. And they're receiving tremendous accolades from the people that rank that kind of stuff, like the U.S. News and World Reports of the world, about, boy, this is a hospital that's behaving more like a beloved consumer brand than a traditional hospital institution. And we love that because we think that those types of businesses, there's dozens of them that are just ripe for more creativity and more courage so that they can become more meaningful to people's lives.
Got it. That's really good. So as you know, this podcast is all about brave marketing moments. So an example where somebody, you're on the agency side, but brand or an agency, where they exemplified bravery and took a risk. And you've been able to work with some world-class brands out there. Is there one kind of moment, either in your career or with certain brands, where you felt like you've exhibited a lot of bravery?
Yeah. On a personal note, we actually stopped being an agency 10 years ago. We had a vibrant multi-million-dollar agency, and I like to say we grew a conscience. We were tired of taking our clients' money, producing solutions that we knew in our hearts weren't going to work, but they were what they asked for. And so we killed that business, and we created a new type of species. We call it an engagement firm. We stopped doing media-based ad campaigns and big creative platforms and started solving businesses' problems in a way that we thought was more ethical and filled with more integrity. So that was terrifying because when you're an ad agency, you can do anything for anybody. As an engagement firm, and particularly with our point of view about cult branding, we took something creepy and scary like a cult and said there's actually genius. There's actually something to be learned from how they get people to devote their whole selves to a cause, to a religion, to a fraternity, to a military, whatever it might be. And there's probably some commercial application for that. So I'm quite proud of the team for the courage that they displayed to make a business and a strategic pivot. And then certainly with our clients, I mean, there's really no shortage of examples. Gatorade comes to mind. Gatorade was pursuing shareholder value. They were a remarkable product when they came out. They legitimately improved sports performance, but their success bred copycats. And for many years, they just chased market share, and they lost everything that was special about their brand. They didn't realize that there was a cancer growing inside their business for about 3 years until one day they woke up and they fell off a cliff, and the Powerades of the world and dozens of knockoffs started to replace them. In hindsight, Gatorade would tell you that they stopped being a performance drink for performance athletes and started to become colored water for thirsty people. And when they lost that specialness, they lost everything that made them premium and desirable and sought after. And so they had to do a lot of brave things, reimagining their culture, their hiring practices, their marketing strategy, their distribution strategy, and what I think is most interesting, their product portfolio. Where you look at Gatorade today, it's not even a sports drink company anymore. They're into nutritionals and powders and gels and all sorts of things that actually make you perform better. You know, Nike was famous for what you wear, and what's on you makes you perform better. But Gatorade wants to become famous for what's in you to perform better, which is actually more substantive than your sneakers or your sweat-wicking T-shirt that Nike sells. So that's a scary, tough thing. Now, that was done out of necessity. And unfortunately, that happens a lot. Businesses kind of run into a wall or fall off a cliff before they decide to take some brave, radical new moves. We try to get to them before they go into cardiac arrest, if you will.
You know, this is all about marketers having key takeaways. They could say, I'm totally going to apply that to my brand. So maybe top 1, 2 ways that a brand can get that cultish following.
Donnie, philosophically, what I would say is it's really 3 things, and it comes down to the founder and or the new leader that's assumed the business following the founder's noble, brand purpose, because the business is usually started for a reason that's more noble than just creating profit. They usually have to solve a problem or to make the world better in some way, shape, or form. So the first, which you'll like, I think you'll like all 3 of them. The first deals with just your ambition. Are you trying to be successful or are you trying to be significant? There's a lot of successful businesses that have no meaningful significance and they could go away tomorrow and nobody would really care. There's less significant businesses that are wildly successful but are also achieving something bigger. The Patagonia, the Ben & Jerry's, the Doves of the world. The second deals with your courage. Building a cult brand requires you to do things that mediocre brands don't do. And that can be scary if you find comfort in the masses or if you want to only travel down paths that are well trodden. And so deviating from that, putting your neck out, doing something risky, spending your money differently, pushing back against the status quo is not for everybody. Unfortunately, most Fortune 1000 sort of C-suites, they're playing defense. They're not Red Bull dropping somebody out of space. Like that could have gone wrong 100 different ways, but they proceed because Red Bull is not just about market share or shareholder value. Red Bull is trying to enter the conscience of society in a different way. So I think courage is often lacking. And then the third is the know-how. The know-how is what are the 8 practical steps? How do we benchmark ourselves against the most cult-like brands in the world? And that's the easiest part to do.
So this season of the Brave Marketer podcast is all about challenger brands. You actually, in a way, Cult is a challenging brand to agencies, but then you've also been working with a lot of challenger brands. Why don't we talk about how Cult is challenging the agency model? And then if you can give us an example of how maybe one of the smaller brands that you're working with had to basically challenge the entire category, not just the brand.
There is actually a lot of similarities. One of those 8 cult brand principles we've labeled picking a fight. And there is some similarities between picking a fight and what we've come to know as more traditional challenger brand marketing. So Pepsi picks a fight against Coke. Burger King picks a fight against McDonald's. We're kind of more interested in something like Southwest Airlines picking a fight against the road trip, right? Southwest Airlines wasn't fighting Delta or I guess TWA back in the day, but Southwest Airlines was birthed to democratize air travel so that families don't have to waste 2 days of their vacation driving to grandma's in the back of the station wagon, kind of an idea. So their entire pricing model was, can a family of 5 fly cheaper than the cost of gas, meals, hotel, and the cost of a car? Patagonia's villain is not North Face. Patagonia's villain is the American policy that erodes public land and privatizes national parks. And so, they start to fight different fights and challenge different sorts of establishments. Swell water bottle, they're challenging plastic water bottles, not knockoffs that are selling comparable, keep your beverage cold for 24 hours.
Yeah, and if I can interject for a second, just thinking about Brave as a browser, you could say, oh, we're picking a fight with Chrome, but it's not specifically Chrome, it's big tech, which includes Google and Chrome, but it's also any of the surveillance capitalism that's going on that's not protecting users' privacy. So I really like what you're saying. Like, it doesn't always have to be Coke versus Pepsi or Home Depot and Lowe's or whatever it may be. It could be David against Goliath, where the Goliath is the entire category, or it could be just the way America operates, if you will.
Yeah, and sometimes it's a negative. I think Brave browser is a great example of fighting, and not privacy so that you can do creepy stuff online, but just that your data is proprietary and you're not being properly compensated for the benefit that brands are getting from your data. I like that. I worked with Home Depot for many years, and they would never say that they were fighting Lowe's. They would say they were fighting insecurity and the homeowner's lack of ambition or know-how to actually accomplish that task. Like their whole "you can do it, we can help" was an empowerment brand message that you should tackle that project. You can paint your walls, redo your garden, put on the addition to your house. And so I like that. Sometimes the villain is really bad, and you see that most often in politics, right? Like it's us versus them. And so there's certainly energy and emotion that can be wrapped up in that if the villain is evil enough. But I like the more upside, the more empowerment side of you're capable of more, you have more potential than you think. There's not an injustice being served. There's just a lack of opportunity that's been capitalized on. And that was the Apple approach of, it wasn't just anti-Microsoft. It was, we exist so that designers can design more, creatives can create more, musicians can do more music, etc.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with like crypto, Bitcoin. You could say, oh, Bitcoin is going against the US dollar, but it's so much bigger than that. Chris, are you a crypto guy at all?
I absolutely am. I think that crypto is a really interesting one because some people have a don't know, don't care. I just want to make money. I just see people making money in that space. And for that group, you talk about the exceptional returns over the last 5 years. There's another group that is trying to create better forms of stored value for third world countries or for democracies that are imploding under themselves with corruption or inflation. And that's a different sort of fight. And then there's just the love, like the best, most vocal crypto enthusiasts. Like this is just a superior way. Like the blockchain is just better, and the stored value, the transferability, and so you have to know kind of your audience, and then you have to decide which of those battles or which of those opportunities do you want to exploit most.
Yeah, and I think about the book Crossing the Chasm by Jeffrey Moore. And that's all about, to your point, getting the cult following. And you probably have your core clients that are like your cult following. And then you go out and get more brands. And then same thing with Brave. Like we had crypto users that are mostly male using the browser. But how do we get all the females and soccer moms across the country also using the browser? And you have to open it up. I mean, the going after that niche audience works very well in the beginning. But then if you want, you got to go broader.
You know, a secret for your listeners is it begins by completely eliminating demographic-based segmentation. Demographic-based segmentation actually hurts more than helps. It's only prevalent because people buy media based on demographics, and we have this unholy love affair with media buying. But if you look at an Apple user, it's very difficult to paint a demographic. Is it male or is it female? Is it a 13-year-old, a 30-year-old, or a 50-year-old, right? Is it an affluent? There is some degree of affluence in comparison to Samsung that if you had to pinpoint it, their household income is probably a bit higher. But it's much more of a psychographic. It's much more of a feeling. It's much more of a tribe that I want to be a part of, or a group that I want to associate with. And when you start doing that, you'll find that your audience is actually much bigger than you think.
Yep, definitely. At Colt, do you feel like you have a competitor? I mean, it's just, there's so many, well, I know you're not an agency, but there's so many agencies out there.
Yeah, again, we stopped thinking about ad agencies a dozen years ago. Our competitors would be somebody like Profit. Profit is a large, several hundred employee that's more like a Bain or an Accenture or a McKinsey, but they go in through the marketing door, not through the finance or the supply chain or the infrastructure door. Probably my biggest competitor is Accenture Interactive, because Accenture Interactive says we don't buy ads for any client. We're in the consumer experience business. We're going to make the experience better, from dressing rooms at your favorite apparel retailer to the fast pass at Disneyland, right? Like, how do you become more valuable to people, not because you say you are or because you send them coupons, but because you've actually thought through how people go about finding you, using you, and talking about you, and you make it, better. I just got back from a trip. Like, the experience of renting a car is still so obnoxious. And the fact that I have to still go to that counter and deny the insurance 3 different times and deal with the line and deal with the pissed off agent. It's like that entire thing. Uber's already shown us what good looks like. Renting a car should be as easy as getting an Uber, and yet it's not. And that's where I think a Hertz or an enterprise car rental needs to reimagine not their advertising strategy, but their customer experience strategy. And that's what an engagement firm like Colt works on.
Chris, what are some of the more interesting things you're doing at Colt, maybe out of the box, that another engagement firm like an Accenture wouldn't be necessarily doing?
Well, we really view our role as kind of evangelists. We've seen what good looks like, and now we're out there spreading the gospel, if you will. And so outside of being guests on podcasts, or we've written a book, or we go and do teaching, we started an event. So every year for the past 9 years, we've taken 1,000 people and sequestered them in this 200-year-old castle in Banff, Alberta, which is spectacular. My kids call it the Harry Potter Castle. And we simply say, don't take our word for it. I'm clearly not unbiased here. I want you to pay me and my team to help you improve your cult worthiness, if you will. But there are hundreds of brands that have transcended their mediocre peers and are already doing amazing things that you can just learn from. And so we just invite them to come and tell their tale. So whether it's in the automotive space and you're like Porsche or Jeep or Land Rover, or you're in the electronic space like your Beats by Dre or Nintendo or GoPro. Last year, the most popular brands was Yeti. Yeti is such a great example of everybody wants a piece of Yeti, and yet everything they do is non-traditional to how most businesses market themselves and create community. And so I think it's as simple as crack Yeti open, look at how they've organized themselves, look at how they measure themselves, look at how they endear themselves to consumers, and see which of those ideas you can steal for your own business.
Yeah, I like that a lot. So Chris, things have obviously changed in the marketing world over the past few years. It feels like it's changing at a faster and faster pace. We've talked about privacy on our side, and we've seen connected TV grow. If you go back a few years, programmatic was really, really hot, and I feel like people are talking less and less about DSPs these days. From your seat, what are you seeing are the big trends that are coming up in marketing? What's working for your clients, or what are you starting to tell them to start, looking at? And on the flip side, what's not working? Like what did you used to spend time 10 years ago on that you're not anymore?
So great question. I think on the working side, I graduated grad school in 99. So it's essentially a 20-year career window from 2000 to 2020, if you will. And I think the hottest thing over that 20-year window was how marketing and IT became these bedfellows to incorporate big data, to do CRM, launch loyalty programs, update point of sale, create e-commerce platforms, et cetera, et cetera. I now think marketing and digital are so synonymous that there's more IT capability oftentimes within the marketing department than having to partner with a more traditional IT group. And the new bedfellow for the marketing group is HR. And we're seeing all sorts of fascinating things around employer branding, and brands that are the best places to work are also the brands that are being the most loved for their category and are exceeding expectations in the marketplace. A couple of years ago, that these CMOs were talking about how much of their time is spent with HR, improving the recruitment process. There was some terrifying data about like 60% of people who apply for your brand, if they have a negative experience, then negatively adjust their shopping behavior. So if you're Yeti and you're getting 10,000 unsolicited resumes every year because people love you so much they want to work for you, but your HR group is sort of crapping the bed and not treating them with kid gloves, they don't like Yeti as much. And now it's a brand problem. Now it's a purchase intent problem. And so I also see a lot of things where marketers are working with alumni programs, kind of like what universities would do, where if you're Chili's, you have 60,000 people turn over at your company a year. That's insane. That's 60,000 people who now have an opportunity to have a really great taste in their mouth because of the summer or the 6 months or the 12 months that they spent attending bar or waiting tables or being a hostess for your brand. And that's a marketing opportunity, not an HR opportunity, to keep them in the family, not just as employees, but as customers for a much longer period of time. So I think that would be, if you're a marketer and you're not in close cahoots with your HR team, especially now where there's this war for talent and just finding people to come work for you is becoming one of the biggest inhibitors to growth, then I think you're missing a big opportunity. And then in terms of what's broken, 10 years ago, Harvard and McKinsey came out with what I thought was game-changing research that kind of killed every aspect of the purchase funnel. And the purchase funnel was this sacred marketing construct that we learned about ever since the Sears catalog in the early 20s. It was popularized by Northwestern University in the 50s. But it's like most people today think that the purchase funnel is a pretty good construct. And they talk about filling the top of the funnel with leads and qualifying them all the way down to purchase. And the Harvard-McKinsey collaboration revealed none of it is true, because it was all invented before social media and mobile devices and search engines and all these things that allow for different elements of inbound marketing and the proliferation of choice. And so I think we have to just wake up and say to ourselves, what if everything I thought I knew about marketing was in fact no longer valid? Where would I start? What would I do differently? How would I spend my dollars differently? And that might be, I think that's where what you guys are doing with your search engine is really fascinating as well, because I think there's just too much of, surely Google's the biggest, they're the most popular, they must be the best. And just inertia is what allows people to not take the 5 minutes necessary to read about the deficiencies or to investigate a better alternative. And I think we have to stop being lazy that way. And we should be constantly saying, if this is what I was doing 3 years ago, should I still be doing it today? Probably not, because the world's moved on.
Yeah. So, Chris, thank you so much for joining the podcast. And where can people reach you?
The easiest thing is just to check us out at cultideas.com. We have lots of content. You can get the book, you can get a scorecard, you can get tickets for the gathering. We're doing our best to try to shout from the rooftops in as many ways possible that there is a better way. And again, like I said, don't take our word for it. Just copy the playbooks of the most beloved brands on the planet.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Donnie.
Thanks again for listening to another episode of the Brave Marketer podcast. I have a question for you. Do you want to stay on top of everything that's going on with Brave ads? Are you a marketer? Do you want to know about our new product launches? Do you want to know about marketing in a cookieless world? Do you want exclusive content and industry insights? Well, there's a very, very easy way to do that. And that's signing up for our Brave Ads Insider newsletter. And you can do that at brave.com/ad news. Again, that's brave.com/ADNEWS. And one other special treat for you listeners. Do you want some Brave swag? Some free Brave swag? Well, if you do, just do two things. Write us a review on Apple Podcasts, and then just tell us that you wrote us a review so we know. Add sales@brave.com. So again, we're going to send you swag. All you got to do is write a review and email us at adsales@brave.com. And finally, musical credits go to my older brother, Ari, and special thanks to Sam and Shez for all their amazing production work. And until next time.